I mean, so at the time we were literally talking to the two local universities. That was it. After that first campaign, I was managing over 100 schools that we were talking to. He signed that for an offer for $240,000. One, we didn't know where to start, right? So we had done a little bit of Google research, reaching out. Had we're actually down the line a little ways with probably signing on with another group, and something just didn't feel right. They were really pushy and kind of just pretty much said, "Your son's not good enough to play D1," and
Really?
and had never even seen a video of him because we weren't playing in a top tier league, right? We weren't playing in MLS Next at the time. We weren't in ECNL. We were what a lot of leagues consider the lowest league of youth soccer, which is US Youth Soccer National League.
Yeah.
And he heard that and he's just like, there's no way he's playing at the next level, at a D1 level. And I had been following you on Instagram for a while and kind of, taking the little Easter eggs you were giving and trying to apply them, but not having any guidance on how to apply them. It was just, I mean, I was kind of the same spot. I'm like, I mean, I'm watching some of his things. I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I can pick up on the nuggets and connect the dots, and there's just so much more to it.
Is the content that I share inside our programs different and more in depth than the stuff that I share on Instagram?
So no, you're not sharing too much because there's so much more than just, hey, you got to email the coaches, you have to have a lot of you've got to have a lot of schools that you want to target, and you've got to have highlight videos. Right? There's so much more to it than that. I think the biggest thing was one, just the personability of your personality, and I think at the time, I think I may have even had a conversation with your wife too, and everything just seemed like it was just comfortable, and that's a big thing for me, like relationships and being able to have like a conversation as if it's not a business transaction,
Yeah.
and more of like, I want to help you because you're a person and I see your potential. And that was a big thing with us deciding to go with D1, that we needed help, right? Meaning we didn't know what we didn't know. And then when we wanted to get serious about it, I didn't want to just spin my wheels again. I wanted to know, I got to know what works and what doesn't work. And then when we hung up on that phone call, Brooke said, "Hey, Dad, this is who we got to use." The amount of athletes that are out there, if you're not marketing your athlete, because that's what you're doing with this, you're marketing them to all coaches. If you're not doing it and you're not doing it consistently and in the right ways, they're not going to see you. I think in the end, Brooks ended up with, I think he had 10 D1 offers to various schools across the country. And some of them were, I mean, some of them were all but full ride. He signed that for an offer for $240,000. The marketing of the athlete, and I hate to say marketing because it seems like you're pimping your kid out.
Mhm.
But the marketing of your athlete and your athlete's talents, it's so important in today's recruiting world. Like, you can't just expect that coaches are coming to you. No, I mean, look, he's got school he goes to, right? He's got responsibilities as a senior class president that he has to work with before and after school. He has soccer training 3 to sometimes 4 times a week, plus games on the weekend. They don't have time. There's zero downside in my mind to being a part of the D1 soccer or the D1 scholarship program. But there's literally zero downside for us. It was all positive, and if I were to go back 18 months, I'd do it all over again. Yeah, and thank you to you, you, Jack, and Connor, and Cade, and your wife as well in the beginning. I couldn't have done it without you guys, like the wisdom you guys shared, and your experience yourselves being athletes, and Connor, an athlete and a coach. There's so much knowledge and experience that you guys share that it is almost invaluable, right? Especially for people that really don't know where to start. And it's just been awesome to be able to work with. I mean, we've had office sessions with you and with Connor, and some that Kate has even sat in on, and every one of them is just great to work with, and it's been awesome. So thank you guys, and looking forward to continue to work together.
Hey, Nate, how's it going, man?
Hey Jack, how you doing? It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too, as always. I always love your pink polos, man. Every polo, you always look good, and you got the Christmas stuff behind you, so it's
It's the
all
time of
going
year.
well.
It's time. So
Tis the season. Well, I appreciate you spending some time here sharing your experience with us here at D1 Scholarship. And so here's where I'd like to start. What originally brought you to us when you were sort of going through the process with your son, Brooks? Why did you originally come to us? What were you struggling with?
yeah, so I mean, we were kind of going through the process of figuring out we knew we needed help, right? It's first athlete that had been at the the cusp of being able to play at the collegiate level, oldest son, and so one we didn't know where to start, right? So we had done a little bit of Google research, reaching out. Had we're actually down the line a little ways with probably signing on with another group, and something just didn't feel right. They were really pushy and kind of just pretty much said, "Your son's not good enough to play D1," and
Really?
had never even seen a video of him, right? It was because they were very soccer specific,
Okay.
uh, and because we weren't playing in a top tier league, right? We weren't playing in MLS Next at the time. We weren't in ECNL. We were what a lot of leagues consider the lowest league of youth soccer, which is US Youth Soccer National League.
Yeah.
And he heard that and he's just like, there's no way he's playing at the next level, at a D1 level. And so I'm just like, yeah, we're good, right? And I had been following you on Instagram for a while and kind of, taking the little Easter eggs you were giving and trying to apply them, but not having any guidance on how to apply them. It was just, I think originally we actually had a conversation with you, learned a little bit about it, and then I was like, well, let's see what other options may be out there. Well, let's just not go with the first option. And that's when we went to that other group, and he just embarrassed himself. And then, I said, let's go back to let's go back to Jack and his team because we felt comfortable the first time we talked to you. And this was really early on when you were starting, your a lot of your Instagram marketing, and so. Uh, I reached out. I think we went down the pathway a little bit, and we kind of pumped the brakes a little, and then um, we finally decided, look, it's time to really get serious about this because we were pushing up against the June 15th, time frame of when coaches can start talking to us.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, connected with you, and everything just seems you explain things super simple, right? Like let's just start at base one, let's start from scratch, and let's just build it and go, build it slow from the bottom up and see what happens. I think the biggest thing was uh, one, just the personability of your personality and I think at the time I think I may even had a conversation with your wife too, and everything just seemed like it was just comfortable and that's a big thing for me, like relationships and being able to have like a conversation as if it's not a business transaction,
Yeah.
and more of like I want to help you because you're a person and I see your potential, and that was a big thing with us deciding to go with D1.
Awesome. Okay. There's a lot there. I want to ask you a couple follow-up questions if that's
Sure,
okay.
absolutely.
So the first one is um, you mentioned pumping the brakes. So I think, and now that you say this, I think we actually had a phone call,
Yeah,
didn't move forward. And that's what I think you're talking about when you pump the brakes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then ended up coming back maybe just like a couple months later or something. I can't remember the timeline on that. Maybe you do. And then came back the second time and then ended up moving forward. And so my question to you is, what was it originally? What was the reason that you pumped the brakes the first time?
I just don't think that we felt like we were to the point where we needed help, right?
Mm.
Meaning we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so as we went through this and we started to figure out, okay, well, we know we have to start emailing people, but like, what is this email supposed to even be? And we started doing a lot just on our own, a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, some of the basic stuff of, we had a 3 minute highlight video, but we had a whole title page that listed stats and all these other things about Brooks as a player. And but we were doing it like March of his junior year. Is that what it would be? March of his
Yeah.
sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Yeah, March of his sophomore year is when we started that.
Mm.
And it was always just the generic, hey, come to my camp, come to my camp, come to my camp. And I just got tired of the responses of just come to my camp because that's all they could say, right? We weren't to the legal communication stage. And so I'm just like, we're spinning our wheels. Let's just hold off. And then when we wanted to get serious about it, I didn't want to just spin my wheels again. I wanted to know, I got to know what works and what doesn't work. Uh,
Mm.
and so yeah, and then so I think originally we actually had a conversation with you, learned a little bit about it, and then I was like, well, let's see what other options may be out there. Well, let's just not go with the first option. And that's when we went to that other group, and he just embarrassed himself. And then I said, let's go back to let's go back to Jack and his team because we felt comfortable the first time we talked to you. And a big thing for me too was, and I know this is maybe out of the norm for you at the time anyways, is I actually had Brooks on the phone call with you
I remember that.
when we started out, and you had a good conversation with him. Like
Mm.
I was just kind of listening and watching, and I could see that like you wanted to learn about him and like what were some of his strengths and what were the things that you could use as leverage and marketability for him as we went through this whole process. And
Yeah.
then when we hung up on that phone call, Brooks said, "Hey, Dad, this is who we got to use."
Really?
Yeah. So
Very cool. Okay. Awesome. So that's good to know. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was you said been following you on Instagram for a long time. And you mentioned you were trying to apply the little nuggets that I was sharing on Instagram,
yeah.
and maybe they were helpful, and you were trying to apply those things, and that was cool. My question now for you that you're on the other side um, is the content that I share inside our programs different and more in depth than the stuff that I share on Instagram? Because a lot of times people will say stuff like, man, you just give everything away on Instagram. And I
Yeah.
try to tell them, no, no. But
Right.
I guess you tell me, is the
No,
content that we post on Instagram the same as what we have really for like students that are in
no, no,
school?
not even close, right? And I don't mean this in a generalization way, but you're kind of sharing some of the framework,
Hmm.
right? And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're advertising and doing marketing on social media for the same area with recruiting is I'm going to give you the framework of what our program could be for you, but you don't go deep enough in to say like I think you go deep enough to pique people's interests,
Mm,
right? Like, man, that actually makes sense. And so then you're wanting to learn more about what it is that it is that you have to offer.
mm.
Um, so no, you're not sharing too much because there's so much more than just, hey, you got to email the coaches, you have to have a lot of you've got to have a lot of schools that you want to target, and you've got to have highlight videos. Right? There's so much more to it than that.
Everybody
Uh,
knows that.
yeah, but that's it. But I mean, I'm working with a friend where he was that's what he was doing. He had a 7 minute highlight video of his player, and I'm like, God, you can't do that. Coaches aren't watching that.
Yeah.
And that's where I was before. I spent hours upon hours of clipping together this, you know, I thought was a pretty impressive highlight video, right?
Yeah.
It was edited really well, highlighted him, had a halo, it would follow him around and everything. And um, you don't have to go to that detail, at least not in the position that Brooks played, right? Some positions may need that,
Yeah.
but with Brooks's position, I learned you don't have to have everything. You, I don't know. You don't have to give him everything all at once, right? You want the coaches. You're spoon feeding them a little bit and then leaving them hungry for more.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Okay, cool. So you kind of came in with everything that we just talked about. And so you came in, and what did you find most helpful? What sort of happened after you coming in to the point where then we were starting to get traction? What happened in between that was really helpful for you?
yeah, so it in the beginning we really didn't know where he wanted to. He had no clue where he wanted to go to school. Um, there's a couple of local universities. He's like, yeah, I'd play for them, right? If there was no other options, and they're both D1 programs, but it wasn't something that he's like dying to go to.
Hmm.
Um, And so I just said, dude, where do you want to go? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know where I want to go. And so I brought that to you. I'm like, what do we do?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any specific area. He was leaning East Coast. That's where he would like to go. But essentially he's like, I just want to play at a good program at the next level.
Hmm.
Um, and I think this was a little unorthodox for you even at the time.
Yeah.
And I I had started prior to starting with you, I had started to build my own little database of every single D1 and every single D2 men's soccer program with the
Hmm.
coach's contact information, even went so far as the conference and finding phone numbers if I could find them. And I brought that to you, and you said that's a lot of schools.
Yeah.
And you're like, but let's throw the biggest net we can throw and see what happens. I mean, so at the time we were literally talking to the two local universities. That was it.
And then
Nobody
what
else.
happened? Okay, so you had the database, you came in, you're talking to the two local universities, you had
Yep.
the database,
Yep.
we kicked off the campaign. What happened?
Yeah, so we did two separate campaigns. We let all of the D1 level run through first. Um, uh, we went from talking, and I'm going to be general here, like, emailing back and forth, having conversations, right? We went from emailing, having conversations maybe once every couple of months with these local universities. Um, After the first campaign, the first we queued up a sequence of three emails. After that first campaign, I was managing over 100 schools that we were talking to.
No, hey, Nate, I don't know if you know this though. He's not capable of playing D1.
He's
He,
not. He's
he's
not.
not,
No.
he's for people listening, that's a joke. That's because of the other service that said that his son is not good enough. He clearly was. He just didn't have the exposure. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was all exposure because again, we weren't playing at the highest, the highest level of soccer. Um, Never mind the fact that we beat every single MLS Next and ECL team we've ever played. Um, but yeah. Um,
Amazing.
so so then I was managing that, and I'm like, Brooks, we kind of need to narrow this in a little bit. And he's like, I don't know, let's just foster. Let's see what happens. Like, let's see how far we can get all of these schools to go down the road because I could end up with 20 or 30 offers, maybe, right?
Mhm.
And then just kind of for fun, just I'm kind of a mistake in hindsight because it gave me more work, but I blasted it out to all the D2 schools.
Sure.
And I'd say there was probably 40 or 50 of them that replied. And I don't know why. I think maybe it's because they weren't ready to start fostering relationships with his class at the time. It was
Mhm.
fairly early. Um, but even then, like I think at the peak of everything between all D1 and D2 schools that we were emailing in our Monday morning follow-ups, it was at like 173 schools. It, and it was always I would only send it if they responded once, at least once a month, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was just like, hey, thanks for the videos, things look great. Keep me updated. Like something simple as that. I'm like, okay, you're still in the queue. Um, and so those were my Monday or Tuesday morning, depending on what time I had. Um, just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and sending the same message to every single coach,
Yeah.
regardless of like there could have been a side conversation and some emails during the week, right? But whatever the last email from them was, or from me was, depending on if they had responded or not, or from Brooks, uh, was they always got the same thing. Here's some updated film. Here's the links to a couple of highlights. Let me know. Let me know if there's any other information I can share with you. Like super basic, super short, um, and we just kind of went from there. We started it, like I said, right before June of 2024, um, and we carried that all the way through about the end of April, end of May of 2025. So it wasn't a fast process.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it was a marathon, and it was. I looked back. Um, I don't know. It was a couple of months ago. Once he was kind of starting to make his decision, we sent in the time frame of the recruiting from his email over 7,500 emails between
Also,
initial.
not manually for people listening.
No, that is not
Not
manually.
not
No, no,
manually.
no,
We could show you how
no.
to do this more efficiently.
Yeah, there's a more efficient way to do it. But mine outside of the initial campaign was manual.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was just my own personal preference. There was a way to streamline it, but I did a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. I did, once there was conversations flowing, I did some customization on almost every email.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of the manual stuff that probably wasn't needed, but um, I enjoyed it a little bit. So
Totally. Okay. So from two local schools to 173 or whatever it is that you were talking
yeah,
about. There's one thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I forgot to bring this up earlier, and that is your team.
yeah,
So you don't play MLS Next, you don't play ECNL. For people who are watching this who are not soccer families and they play a different sport, those are the two primary big leagues in club soccer. And there's a lot of people who believe, like this other recruiting advisor guy or whatever, that if you don't play for a team in one of those two leagues, you're not getting recruited to a D1 school. You may not even get recruited at all. And
yep,
there's a lot of people who believe that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was your team is good.
Yeah.
Like you said, you guys beat all the ECNL and MLS Next teams that you guys play.
Yeah.
Safe to say that the other kids on his team are pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. The whole team is surrounded with D1 caliber athletes, right? They've been together. I mean, the core of the team, right? You pick a couple of people up and drop a couple of people, or they self deselect off the team, whatever it might be every year, right? But there's a core group of about 6 kids that have been together since COVID.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a brotherhood. They know each other, they trust each other, and the culture of the team is one of the family and love and everything else, right? But at the end of the day, every one of those kids have put in the work. They're talented, and they're surrounded by other people that make them better. So,
Okay. So my follow-up question to that is, how many of those other kids have significant exposure opportunities in college recruiting?
uh, outside of like just league play, you mean, or
Sure. So here's where I'm going with this, Nate, is a lot of people think you have to have that, you have to play for an ECNL MLS Next team
Hmm.
to get recruited.
Right,
Brooks did not. Brooks did not
right,
play for one of those teams. He was talking to over 100 schools. Spoiler
right.
alert, he ends up getting multiple D1 offers, over $1 million in scholarship offers. And so, but one of the things that you had mentioned previously to me in another conversation at one point was that there were players on your team who are capable of having similar interest or at least getting recruited by a lot of these schools who
Yeah,
do not have that. Is that accurate?
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it is just because of the misunderstanding or the preconceived notion that I'm good enough, the coaches are going to find me.
Hmm.
And there's some that still to this day have that mentality maybe, or that thought process. I'm slowly cracking it and breaking them down a little bit, making them realize, guys, it's a lot of work. Um, but I mean, we've got a player on our team that played for a professional academy for 2 years, um, and is going through the process now of like, crap. I thought things were going to work out easy,
Hmm.
and again, I think a lot of it is, I mean, geographically, we're not in an area where it's super highly concentrated of top level teams.
Hmm.
Um, but again, to speak to the credit of, the coaching staff and the players and everything else, we're 3-time national champions,
Yeah.
right? You think that alone would draw coaches, but it doesn't. There's the amount of athletes that are out there. If you're not marketing your athlete, because that's what you're doing with this, you're marketing them to all coaches. If you're not doing it and you're not doing it consistently and in the right ways, they're not going to see you, and they're not going to know about you.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude we had to take. And it again, it was a long process, but at the end of the day, we saw the fruits of doing the unorthodox or the uncommon way of recruiting, and it worked.
Okay. And so you say it worked. What does that mean? What ended up happening as a whole in terms of offers you got, the final one that maybe you guys chose? What does it mean when you say it worked?
Yeah, so I mean, his goal was to play at the next level, right? Um, he wanted to play D1 soccer because that's every kid's dream. They want to play at the D1 level, right? Um, and so as he was going through this and he was trying to figure it out, he had his first offer was from one of the locals, uh, down in southern Utah, and then we ended up playing at a showcase. We just got invited to go to this random showcase that we're like, okay, let's go up and watch, and we'll play the showcase. Um, and luckily, we got to go as a whole team. Usually, you go to these random fundraising ID camps, um, and you're playing by yourself, right? And everybody's trying to prove that they're the best player at that position. And in soccer, the midfielder wants to show that he can dribble everybody else and shoot and score himself. And so the forwards never see the ball. Defenders think that it's cool to play a long ball because that's what coaches want to see. And so the midfielders never see the ball. It's just this, I despise them.
Yeah.
But I get it. They're a necessary evil, right? Um, but we got to go up at the showcase, and we kicked the crap out of the national championship in the UCNL League. And all the coaches were like, whoa, who are these people? And that opened the doors, not just for Brooks, it opened the doors for a lot of other kids, right? Um, Off of that camp alone, I think 4 of them are now committed, including Brooks, to schools.
Hmm.
Um, and it, I think in the end, Brooks ended up with, I think he had 10 D1 offers to various schools across the country, East Coast, West Coast, the Midwest. Um, and some of them were, I mean, some of them were all but full ride, um, depending on where they were at and, the tuition costs and everything else that was involved and any academic money that he qualified for as well.
Hmm.
Um, but in the end, he made the decision that he wanted to go somewhere and he wanted to go out east. And he ended up actually just signing his offer letter, or the national letter of intent that doesn't exist anymore. That's all ceremonial. Um, he signed that for an offer for $240,000, and so that doesn't cover all of his education, but it opens up doors that were never going to be opened before.
Yeah.
Um, and Well, yeah, I'll take a little bit of credit, for the work on the back end. Um, at the end of the day, the talent speaks for itself, right? But if that talent doesn't get pushed out in front of the coaches via email and highlight clips, and there's some positives to ID camps if you're already talking to the coaches,
Hmm.
and they say, hey, and you line it up, and they know you're coming, and you communicated that, then yeah, it makes sense. That we did that with some of the local schools. That's how the interest started there.
Yeah.
Um, but but the marketing of the athlete, and I hate to say marketing because it seems like you're pimping your kid out.
Mhm.
Um, but the marketing of your athlete and your athlete's talents, it's so important in today's recruiting world. Like you can't just expect that coaches are coming to you. It's not going to happen unless you're the 1.1% of the top of the nation's talent.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything that you said. From two schools to 173 to 10 D1 offers after the guy told you that he wasn't capable of playing D1.
Yeah.
That's got to feel good. And then
If I even
200.
remembered who it was, I would almost drop him a line, but I don't even remember who he was.
Maybe it's a good thing you don't remember who he was.
Yeah.
To a $240,000 scholarship. And that's incredible. And you said something that I really want to make sure that you hear and that everybody else hears, and that is that you were like, and I'll take a little bit of credit. No, you get a lot of credit, right? You get a lot of credit because you helped Brooks significantly in the process. And don't get me wrong, Brooks did a lot in the process. Brooks was very involved throughout the whole process, and he did a fantastic job. But you, as the parent, you did such an amazing job helping him through the process, shouldering some of the work that scholarship, like you can take a lot of credit for that as well. It was a family unit effort. And that's why you guys ended up where you are. And one of the reasons that I want to hit on this, one, just because I want to commend you, because I thought that you
Oh,
did an incredible job.
thank you.
But two, I also want to say because there's a stigma out there that you're not supposed to help your athlete,
Right.
that the kid is supposed to do all of the work.
Right.
And if they don't do all of the work, it's because they don't really want it. And that's the stigma that's out there.
Yeah.
And I almost think it's my life's mission, not even to get kids scholarships and recruited, which of course is, but to make sure that parents know that it's okay to help your kid through the process. And in fact, you almost 100% of the time need to. I mean, there are valedictorian. Brooks is going to an incredibly strong academic school. I mean,
Right.
like Ivy League caliber academic school. Brooks is a
Right.
very smart kid with great grades. He applies himself. He could not do this on his own.
No, I mean, look, he's got school he goes to, right? He's got responsibilities as a senior class president that he has to work with before and after school. He has soccer training 3 to sometimes 4 times a week, plus games on the weekend. They don't have time.
Yeah.
They just don't. I bet if I were to go back and track, maybe I should have done that. That would have been a good statistic to learn. How many hours I spent? I would dare say it's north of 200 to 300 hours of clips, emailing, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Um, that was a pretty valuable few hundred hours.
No kidding. 240 grand worth.
Right.
When you think about the way that sometimes I think about this, which I know is not really fair, but There's a lot of people say the recruiting process is a full-time job, right? That's the phrasing that people use. I don't even necessarily disagree with it. But if I say, okay, it's a full-time job and it took you roughly a year, you guys probably a little bit longer than a year because you started earlier,
Yeah.
but 2 to 300 hours is less than what would be a full-time job a year.
Yeah.
And 240 grand, which is a pretty solid salary for less than a full-time job a year. And so
Right.
my point is like, yeah, you put in the work and you put in the effort, and it was not easy. But at the same time, you get the financial reward. Your kid gets to go to an incredible school, continue his career, and it's just in this amazing thing. And yeah, I'm so excited for you. So the last thing that I want to ask you, because you have just been so incredible throughout the whole process, with working with our team. I mean, you guys were such a pleasure to work with. Brooks was amazing. You were amazing, but you've also been very active in our community of
Mm.
parents, which I cannot thank you enough. That is such a massive help, sure, to us, but to other parents that they get to
Sure.
hear it from parents who have been through the process before. And so I love that. I hope you continue to do that. And I'm like, it's just so helpful. And I think parents are so grateful to you for doing that. So I want to give you a chance on like a little bit of a bigger stage to reach people who maybe you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. What wisdom do you have for parents going through the process right now? What would you impart to them, to the ones who are in the thick of it, who feel like maybe my kid's not good enough? People are telling us or they're not good enough. We're
Right.
just nowhere in the process. Maybe even the parents who are like, we kind of started this on our own. We're using Jack's Instagram stuff. What would you say to those parents? What wisdom do you have for them?
I mean, I was kind of the same spot. I'm like, I mean, I'm watching some of his things. I can, I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I can pick up on the nuggets and connect the dots, and there's just so much more to it. The ability to, well, I mean, you mentioned the community, right? That the network of people that we're talking with or that are part of the program, and it wasn't just me sharing my ideas and thoughts and experiences. Like I learned a lot from other people that are in that group, that were already further down the line than I was. They were making visits 6 months before we were making visits, and so we were, bouncing ideas back off each other, asking what works, what doesn't work, um, and then just getting the opportunity to pay it forward to that group. That's still building and growing. It's fun to do, but I mean, advice wise, I would just say like, look, you can't, as emotional as it is, right? The recruiting process, you have to a little bit disconnect your emotions from it. Um, because if you get so worked up because you didn't hear back from a coach you were really, really hoping to hear back from, or man, he was talking to me for a month, but now he's gone cold. He must just not be interested. Uh, or, you know, I don't have any great highlights because my kid hasn't played a great game in 2 weeks, right? He hasn't had any great results. It, there's so much more to it. Like the coaches understand the kid's not going to have the best game every single game of his life. Professionals don't have the best game of their game every single game. College, premier D1 athletes at the highest levels don't have their best game every single game. But there's always clips you can use, right? I mean, there were clips I used from when Brooks they lost games, right? Or they tied matches, like. But you can still find clips where you're focusing and showing the quality of a player that your player can be. Um, and I'd say maybe the biggest thing is, man, it's a marathon. Like,
Mhm.
I mentioned that the idea of, man, the coach hasn't responded for a month, and we were really active before. They're active behind they're in the background. They're so active. Like one of the things that I'd say every single school that offered Brooks a scholarship, I asked them, hey, what was it? Like, aside from his athletic ability, aside from him as a person, like what kept you interested? What was it that really wanted you to be able to, bring him out on a visit and really get to know him? Every single one of them said the amount of communication that Brooks gave to us, the amount of film he gave to us, his consistent follow-up, even when we weren't talking to him consistently, we had so much data on him that it was so easy that once he got out here and we met him as a person in real life, saw him play, it was like, yeah, everything he's shown us is true. There's he's just proving to us what we already know.
Um,
Every one of them said that in their own way, right? But that was the gist of every one of them said that almost that exact thing. the consistent updates and communication and film. And look, it can feel like you're being annoying. Like you can feel like you're annoying the coaches. But if you are, they're going to say, hey, you know what? Like, let us know in a month how things are going. Like they'll tell you if you're annoying them. But if it's short, quick communication with a quick click of a highlight that they can watch, that's what their job is. That's what they know to do. And I would just say, don't get discouraged. Um, and when you are discouraged, have a therapy session. There's this great program called Office Hours where you can go and have a therapy session with each other, and it's great. Um, and in reflection, I would just say enjoy the process, man, because it's over now for us as far as the recruiting process is. It was fun. Like it seems like it's a lot of hard work and burdensome, but man, it was actually fun. You learn a lot along the way, and then we've got a couple more kids that hopefully we can apply these same things to if they have the desire to play at the next level. And um, it's just fun, and you get to be able to be part of the community and see the successes of other people that are, getting scholarships and offers and celebrating them, and it's just fun. It There's zero downside in my mind to being a part of the D1 soccer or the D1 scholarship program. But there's literally zero downside for us. It was all positive, and if I were to go back 18 months, I'd do it all over again.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'm really happy to hear that, of course. Um, and I'd love for you to do that because I just love working with you guys. So if we had to rewind the clock, like I hope you would say yes again. So
Yeah.
I would want to do it all over again. But also for the parents that are listening, everything that he mentioned is 100% correct. And the wisdom that you just dropped, I think is invaluable. And you didn't say anything wrong, which I'm obviously not surprised. But I hope parents take that to heart because all of that is 100% true, whether it's the emotionally detaching, the marathon, not the sprint, the communication piece to that, the not getting discouraged, the finding some sort of support group from other parents. All of that is so critical and important. And so, Nate, I just want to thank you for sharing your experience. I want to thank you for the last year or 18 months or however long it's been. I just want to thank you for being a pleasure to work with. Brooks too. You guys are such a wonderful family. Thank you for the way that you participated in the D1 scholarship family. A lot of other families have benefited from your participation. And so on behalf of them, I'll say thank you. And just so excited for Brooks, so excited for you. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do at the next level.
Yeah, and thank you to you, you, Jack, and Connor, and Cade, and your wife as well in the beginning. I couldn't have done it without you guys, like the wisdom you guys shared and your experience, yourselves being athletes, and Connor, an athlete and a coach. There's so much knowledge and experience that you guys share that it is almost invaluable, right? Especially for people that really don't know where to start. And it's just been awesome to be able to work with. I mean, we've had office sessions with you and with Connor and some that Kate has even sat in on, and every one of them is just great to work with, and it's been awesome. So thank you guys, and looking forward to continue to work together.
Beautiful. Sounds great. Thanks for your time, Nate.
Yeah, take care.